Here are 14 fringe Springbok players that Rassie Rasmus should consider calling up to the side for the November tour against England, Scotland, and Wales. If you're new around here, my name is Jordan Burrs and welcome to Jordan Burrs Rugby, a South African-based, South African-focused rugby channel where we talk all things Springboks, all things South African rugby. So if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world to me. Leave this video a like, and as always, drop your opinions down in the comments. I know you guys will have some opinions on this. Maybe I've left some players out that you think deserve to have a call up into the Springbok side. Maybe you disagree with some of the players that I'm putting forward that maybe Rassie Rasmus should take a look at. So let's get into it, starting with the Lions. Now, I watched the Lions last week against Edinburgh where they absolutely hammered them. But there has been one player that a lot of people have been speaking about. When's he going to get his opportunity to sort of burst onto the scene? And that is Sanelo Nhamba. Now, Sanelo Nhamba is a 9 and a 10, a bit of a utility back. But the problem is that there's just so much competition in that 9 and 10 position. I mean, in the 9s, we got Jaden Hendrikse, Grant Williams, Kobus Reinach, Faf de Klerk when he's fit, Moni van den Berg, who is in the Lions team as well. In the 5 position, we got Sasha, Mani, Pollard, Jordan Hendrikse could probably also be thrown in there. Sia Masuku could probably also be thrown in there. So it is a little bit unfortunate because Sanelo Nhamba did win the player of the URC last season, so he can't really play much better than that. I just think he is going to suffer from the competition within South Africa and the guys that are already sort of in the Springbok squad. It's going to be very, very difficult for Rassie Rasmus to bring him in with all the competition, but like I said, he definitely deserves a shot. Now, I'm not going to mention Kewan Horn because I think he's slightly further than a fringe player at the moment. I think they will continue to sort of bring him in and out and see how he fits into the Springbok system with Fassi and Damian Willemse and Willie Leroux at the back there, but you could throw him in as a fringe player. Then moving into the Bulls, and I think there's a couple of guys here. I've put down 4 names, 1 backline player and 3 forwards. Let's start with the backline player, and that is David Kriel. Plays 12 for the Bulls, has really been performing well so far in this URC, had a good season last season, but I think why he probably hasn't been called up is because he isn't the typical mold for a Springbok 12. You look at Damien Delende, you look at Andre Esterhuizen, they're really, really big ball carriers that can get you over the gain line. David Kriel's a little bit smaller and he's more about the hands, the offloads, the steps, which is not a bad thing at all. And I think he's been playing some really good rugby, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid if he did get called up to the Springbok side to sort of build some of that depth in that number 12 position. He can also play 13, he can also play 15. So I do think he is quite a versatile backline player, and potentially Rassie should have a look at him. The other 3 players from the Bulls are from the forward pack. Now, Volko Low, yes, he has played some Springbok rugby before, but at the moment, I definitely think he is a fringe player for the Springboks. Volko Low absolutely destroyed Ulster last week. He's been scrumming like a man possessed at the moment. And with our sort of prop positions getting a little bit older, it's going to be interesting to see how Rassie Rasmus kind of phases some guys out and brings some guys in. Obviously, Gerrit Steenekamp is in there. He's brought in Jan-Hendrik Wessels from the Bulls. So he is sort of starting to build that depth. And Chunu from the Sharks is also sort of being called up there. And I just think it's difficult to bring him in with, again, the competition. All of these names come down to competition, but I do think Volko Low will definitely be in the conversation for this November tour. The last 2 guys are loose forwards, Cameron Hanekom and Mpilo Gumede. Now, they both have been to a training camp this year. I think Cameron Hanekom is going to burst onto the scene at some point. He's just such a good rugby player. I mean, he can steal balls, he's agile, he's fast, he bounces guys, he's got game IQ. Mpilo Gumede is right there next to him, and the Bulls are very blessed to have both of them. But I think those 2 guys could definitely be guys for the future. They are still young in their early 20s. So I would be surprised if Cameron Hanekom and Mpilo Gumede don't get a shot next year. It's going to be difficult for them to get in this year, but I do think Rassie should definitely have a look at Cameron Hanekom. Even if he just goes on tour, he doesn't necessarily play and sort of gets that experience being with the Springboks overseas. Then moving into the Sharks, and I mean, there's so many guys that you can name from the Sharks that are sort of fringe Springbok players because they've bought a lot of Springboks, but there's also a lot of youngsters coming through. The first 2 that jump to mind are Jordan Hendrikse and Sia Masuku. Now, we did see Jordan Hendrikse make his debut for the Springboks against Wales earlier this year, but I think he's just got better and better as he's played in that number 15 jersey for the Sharks. He can kick some long bombs, and maybe he is sort of the solution and answer to the Springboks kicking woes. But again, it comes down to that competition. Are you going to drop Rassie? When Damian Willemse comes back, is there a spot for Jordan Hendrickse? Does Jordan Hendrickse play 10, 12, or 15? But I definitely think Jordan Hendrickse is just on the cusp of Springbok level once again. Then Sia Masuku has been on the lips of so many people over the last couple of months, especially towards the back end of last season. Again, just comes down to competition. Is he better than Handré Pollard, Manie Libbok, Sasha Feinberg, and Gumazulu? He is a little bit older than the rest of them. So that all plays a part in maybe why Sia Masuku hasn't been selected for the Springboks. Now, the Sharks are a very blessed side because while they have bought all those Springboks, they also do have some very, very good youngsters coming through. Two guys who potentially Rassie Rasmus is going to take a look at is Ethan Hooker and Lorenzo Julius. Now, Ethan Hooker did go to a training camp. We saw him play wing for the Sharks over the weekend and performed well, probably one of their best performing players in that game against the Dragons. He can also play outside center. He's a big boy. He's young, he's fast, he's very much capable, and he again is going to be one of those guys for the future that we sort of slowly bring in to the Springbok system. Then Lorenzo Julius, who played under 20 Springbok level for 2 years, played 13 for the Sharks over the weekend, and again, one of their best performing players. I think the boogeyman is definitely one for the future. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of balance Lukhanyo Lorenzo Julius, Ethan Hooker in that number 13 position. You've also got Swayze there that could potentially play 13. So it's an interesting. The Sharks are a very, very interesting team this year with all the experience as well as these youngsters coming through. But let me know if you think Ethan Hooker or Lorenzo Julius will be called up to the Springbok squad for November. And then the final guy out of the Sharks is Pepsi Buthelezi. He was also in a training camp. He maybe has had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but I mean, he's just as good as a Cameron Hanekom or Mpilo Gumede, and we super blessed with all the loose forwards that we have in South Africa, and I'm sure Pepsi will get his shot. I mean, he has played for the Springboks. I think it was against Portugal, but I think he will get more of a shot next year in the Springbok outfit. I haven't included Mchunu because I do think he is potentially going to be included into the Springbok touring squad. So if he isn't, then he's also a fringe player. Then in the final franchise in South Africa, the Stormers, I picked 3 players here: Neetling Forshire, Andre Hugo Venter, and Ruben van Heerden. So all forwards, beg your pardon. Neetling Forshire, he's been scrumming well, and just another guy who could potentially fill into that prop position for the Springboks. Andre Hugo Venter has been in the mix for a couple of years now, and our hooker position is one where maybe we lack a little bit of depth. Yes, we've got Bongi, we've got Malcolm Marx, and now Johan Grobler, but maybe Andre Hugo Venter could rival Johan Grobler for that third spot. And then Ruben van Heerden, we know how much trouble we have in the lock department at the moment. Eben Etzebeth, Ruan Nokia, RG Sneeman's now fit. It looked like Jean Klein played for Munster over the weekend. Salman Murat, Nicholas Janssen van Rensburg. But I do think Ruben van Heerden had a very, very good season for the Stormers last season, and he's just going to get better and better with time. So I definitely think Ruben van Heerden could be an option in one of those lock positions for the Springboks. And then the final player I want to talk about is based overseas, playing for Harlequins, and that's Tyron Green. Tyron Green is a phenomenal rugby player. I think he made the Premiership Team of the Season last season. So he's definitely up there. Again, it's just one of those things. We have so many 15s, so many very, very good 15s. Vili, Apelele Fassi, Damien, Jordan Hendrickse, Q and Horn. Where does Tyron Green fit in? So I think to really make the Springbok side, especially as a youngster, sort of in your early to mid 20s, you have to really, really shoot the lights out. And I think that's why a lot of these guys, I think we will see a fair few of these guys in play for the Springboks at some points over the next couple of years. But I think that's why they haven't sort of cemented themselves in the Springboks yet, just because of all that competition. Let me know what you guys think about these fringe players. Who would you select in that November tour? Who wouldn't you? And if I've missed anyone, let me know. Hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.